The other thing that caffeine does, and this is perhaps the most important one, is that it effectively prevents the action of a molecule called adenosine. Adenosine is a molecule that builds up the longer that you are awake. And then when you sleep, adenosine gets pushed back down to a minimal level. Adenosine essentially is a readout of fatigue overall. So if we were to stay up for 2 days, adenosine levels would be very high. So in terms of a practical tool, I do try and restrict my caffeine intake, or at least most of it, to the early part of the day. I'll stop drinking caffeine usually around 3 or 4 p.m. I don't drink any high amount of caffeine after 4 p.m. and generally not coffee. But when you wake up in the morning, depending on how well and how long you slept, your levels of adenosine might be zeroed out and you feel really alert, or you might have a small amount of adenosine hanging around. If you drink caffeine right away, what happens is caffeine acts as what's called a competitive, let's just keep it simple. It essentially binds to the receptor that adenosine would normally occupy.
It's an antagonist.
It's an antagonist, but it's what we call a competitive agonist because it binds, so it's an agonist, but it outcompetes the adenosine, so the adenosine can't dock at those receptors. So that's great because you start to wake up. But then around 2 or 3 p.m., as that caffeine wears off, the adenosine that's still around binds to those receptors and you get the afternoon crash. So one way that you can avoid the afternoon crash, or at least offset quite a bit of it, is to wait 90 to 120 minutes after you wake up to ingest any caffeine.
And so adenosine lowers.
Adenosine will continue to be cleared from your system in the early part of the day. And there's also now it appears to be what I think is an interesting effect of exercise early in the day, close to waking. So in the first 3 hours of waking will also help clear adenosine. Okay. So this is why
I want to flush this out of the system.
Yeah. And this is why I think, for me personally, I don't, the best time to work out for me would be late mid-morning. I'm a bit of a lazy bear in the morning. But what I find is every time I work out early in the day, I have more energy all day long. And I never know why that is. And it's because most likely it's because you liberate a bunch of dopamine and adrenaline from your system. So you get a long arc of activation and alertness. Plus you are eliminating whatever adenosine is there. And so you feel like you have a lot of energy throughout the day. So obviously if you train really, really hard and you deplete yourself, you're going to feel sleepy in the afternoon. This is another sort of tool type scientific factoid, which is that when you train very hard, whether or not it's endurance training or strength training or what have you training, you're directing a lot of oxygen and fuel utilization to the muscles and less goes to your brain. This is the brain fog that you feel in the afternoon or after a hard workout. So you have to learn how much you can work out, how long, how hard, so that you don't actually reduce your brain's ability to function. A lot of people think they have ADHD or brain fog. They're just training like a maniac early in the day, and then your body doesn't have different resources for brain and body.
I wonder if that has a cumulative effect on IQ.